Virginia Library Association. How are you? Thank you for inviting us to be part of your annual conference. I'm Virginia Stanley, Director of Library Marketing at HarperCollins.
Greetings, I am Chris Connolly, Senior Library Marketing Associate at HarperCollins. I have to remember that, it's a mouthful.
And I'm Lainey Mays, and I'm the Library Marketing Assistant at HarperCollins.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us here with you to talk about some of our books that are coming out in the winter-spring 2020 season. So we've just picked out some selected titles that we're excited about, and we hope you are too. So we'll get right to it.
One important announcement.
Oh, yes.
So hopefully there's some VLA members watching this. The Virginia Library Association is going to be sharing our video on their platforms to drum up excitement for their conference. And one thing we need to mention is one of our esteemed, brilliant authors is going to be a keynote speaker. On Friday, October 25th, you can go meet Virginia author Celeste ONeill, whose novel One Night in Georgia is on sale now. So this is a luncheon that's going to take place from 11:30 to 1, and you can meet Celeste as she kind of gives you the backstory of this novel set in the summer of 1968 that deals with some lives, the young women whose lives are caught in the whirlwind of violent racial history, but also it's a coming-of-age novel. It's brilliant, and we love Celeste, so go meet her. Again, this lunch is from 11:30 to 1. You can go to the VLA website for tickets. Not to be missed. So, very exciting. Hope everyone who's watching is going to be going to the conference. It will be very much worth your time.
Yes, that's very exciting. And such great buzz about that book. So
Yes.
hopefully you can go and hear her talk.
And she has a great story about writing it, which might involve a Virginia library. So, no spoilers, but go see her. So, all right.
Okay.
To the books?
To the books.
To the books.
Okay. So the first two books that I'm going to talk about are by the same author, Sara Paretsky. So you all know Sara Paretsky, I'm sure. She does standalones, and she also does her acclaimed series featuring Chicago's legendary detective V.I. Warshawski. And so this is the next installment in that New York Times best-selling series, and it takes place, as I said, in Chicago, and we're seeing Chicago through the lens of several characters here, and they are acknowledging that what happens in Chicago, there's a lot of pay-to-play money, the funny money that's going around. Money changes hands in the middle of the night, and by morning, buildings and parks are replaced by billion-dollar projects. So Warshawski's gets dragged into one of these deals through her goddaughter, whose name is Bernie. And Bernie has rescued this down-and-out singer, songwriter, a woman named Lydia, who had been living on the streets because her life fell apart after her lover had been murdered. Right next to her, they were involved in a mass shooting in an outdoor concert. And so Warshawski's goddaughter gets involved with this woman, and not only does the goddaughter plunge herself and Warshawski into this clandestine sort of deal with the city, they start to run into some ruthless characters, and that leads to the murder of this young man that Bernie was involved with. And he's part of this community group called Slick. And all of a sudden, bodies start mounting up with this group Slick, which is, as I say, it's a community group, and there's a lot of political intrigue and dirty dealings and murder, and leave it to Warshawski to untangle it all. I'll tell you no more than that because you can figure it out. Why would I take the fun away from you for reading it? So that's Deadland, and that is coming out in March. It actually goes on sale April 21st. She's just a wonderful writer, and she came to the American Library Association a couple years ago, delivered an amazing speech about libraries and free speech and First Amendment and Oh, it was so great that I think Booklist magazine turned around and got the story and repeated it in their magazine because it was just so powerful. Had the audience on its feet. She's brilliant. So that's that. Now she has another book coming out in June. It goes on sale the end of June, the 30th, and it's called Love and Other Crimes. These are stories, short stories. By the author, and they're VI stories, the Warshawski stories, and then there are non-VI stories. So you get a mix of both, including a brand new VI story that's never been out there before. So there are 14 short stories, 8 with Warshawski, and the rest are sort of standalone. So if you're not familiar with that series and that detective, this is a great way to kind of dive in because you get a feel for her writing and it's just wonderful. But she's won every major mystery award out there, including the Cartier Diamond Dagger Award and the Gold Dagger Award, the Sue Grafton Memorial Award. I could go on, but you know all that. She's smart. She's really smart. She has a terrific website. If you go on her website, you'll learn lots of cool things about her and see pictures of her with her dogs. So that's Sara Paretsky. She's absolutely brilliant. She's lovely, smart, and I can't say enough about her. Ever since I met her at Chicago ALA, I just think she's brilliant, and she is. So that's Sara Paretsky, Love and Other Crimes, short story collection, and the next installment in the V.I. Warshawski, which is Deadland.
Okie dokie. I will be telling you about a debut we're thrilled to have on our winter 2020 list, Lakewood by Megan Giddings. So this is coming March 24th, and this is from our Amistad imprint, and they're really putting out some fascinating both fiction and nonfiction, Black voices, the Black experience in America. And Lakewood is a novelized account on kind of the medical experimentation on Black Americans. This is a novel set in modern day, and it's kind of this fictionalized account, a novelized account of this young woman, Lena, who has to return home once her grandmother dies and the family has debt, and she's desperate. So she drops out of college, returns home, and finds a job in this small kind of remote town of Lakewood, Michigan. And it's high paying. She can't really talk about it, Lena. She can't tell her family about it, but it's high paying, free place to live. Everything seems okay. Well, what is really happening here is a series of medical experimentations. So like an eye drop that will turn brown eyes blue, a medication that can cure dementia. But there's so much going on behind the surface in this mysterious town. So you can kind of think of this as like part The Handmaid's Tale as well. Just like a very interesting semi-dystopian look at Lena and her life. I just think it's a really important story. It's fast-paced, horrifying at times, but completely engaging. We are just so excited about this. Definitely for fans of like Jesmyn Ward. Megan's going to be a big deal. She's from she lives in my home state of Indiana, so there's also that connection. But this is just a brilliant novel that we're really excited about. This is coming March 24th.
Okay, the first one I'm going to talk about is Winter Counts by, can one of you?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. By David Hesco-Widen. And this one I think has had a lot of great reads at Harper. Everyone's really excited about it. It's a debut thriller, and a crime fiction thriller, and it's got a really interesting aspect to it. So I'm going to tell you the story, and then I'll talk about David a little after. So this is set on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota, and what a great cover too. I think it's great. So cool. Yeah. In the news we're in reading, everybody really we're really hungry for these Native American stories and narratives, and so to have it in a crime thriller is really unique, and this one delivers. It's so fun to read, you can't stop reading it. But you learn about this man in the novel called Virgil Wounded Horse. So he lives on the reservation, and he's a local enforcer, and so it's not law enforcer, because I learned a lot too. It has a lot of background for like law enforcement on a reservation, which I guess I shouldn't be surprised about, but I didn't know a lot about, so it was really interesting. So because the government owns this land, they have to come in for all law enforcement that is, murder or anything big, and the rest is kind of held over with the tribe, and so there's not a lot of like local state law enforcement there, and so there's this really big gap between the two, and they are really in this novel they're really frustrated by it because they have to really pull a big crime for the government to come and be pulled to the reservation. And so Virgil is kind of this self-appointed enforcer that's going to just keep the peace and get things done, and probably people are going to remember it the way he does it, to get things peaceful that the government won't step in and do. So that's kind of in the background through all of this, which I found really intriguing. But justice is denied in this legal system, they're all going through that, and on the reservation, heroin makes its way on. So they're wondering where all of these drugs are coming from. All of the kids are kind of getting involved in it, and so he's called to help. And he's had his own family past. He has lost a lot of family members, and he's taking care of his nephew, and his nephew gets involved in this. And so he enlists the help of his ex-girlfriend and her father, who's kind of runs a lot of things in the community, and he's going to get to the bottom of it. So it takes him to Denver and all around, and he really dives in. And he has to fight his own demons of the past, but really learn about his identity and solidify that. And he comes to terms with a lot of things that maybe he was a little fatigued about in the community, and how that can really be a great culture point for him. But to say all this, it's awesome. You keep turning the pages. There's a great quote by James McLaughlin, who wrote Bearskin. Crimes are solved, violence happens, and Virgil Wounded Horse, a hard-fisted, big-hearted, irresistible Lakota enforcer, guides us through the complicated realities of contemporary Native life on and off the reservation. Wyden writes this with impressive authority and insight in this entirely original, enlightening, cliche-destroying novel. And I think that's a perfect way to sum it up. And David is really big in this community. He was not raised on the reservation. His mom was at the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. But he lives in Denver, and he is the associate professor of Native American Studies and Political Science at the Metropolitan State University of Denver. And he is a member of the Sichonga Lakota Nation. So he knows all about this. He's really pulls a lot of great, symbolism and wonderful Native stories into this book, and you're gonna love it.
Should we take a moment to talk about the Virginia items that we have?
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
I just realized that we're wearing our buttons. Chris, we know that you love Virginia.
I do love Virginia. All Virginia. But
Pause
I didn't get a button. Dramatic pause.
But our one of our favorite librarians gave us these pins. Virginia is for library lovers.
Lisa Varga, right?
Lisa Varga.
Lisa
She
Varga.
had to ask for permission because you can't use it without one, so she got permission to put libraries between is for and lovers. So we love these buttons. It sits on my desk all the time.
Yep.
Stares at me.
Yep. And we have
The state bird.
the state bird.
Hold on.
The cardinal.
He wasn't done.
And then
Your state candle. No, it's not a state candle. It's supposed to smell like Virginia.
it smells like you.
It does smell
No.
like What's it say there? What's
that's
the
right,
profile?
Lainey. Read
So
the...
this is the Virginia candle. It's a blend of pine needles, fir, and sandalwood with a bouquet of blooming honeysuckle and the scent of soft rainfall. You know that scent, soft rainfall?
Sure. Stick your head out the window. It smells like this candle.
It just smells kind of clean and pretty.
Like Virginia. And I am Virginia. There. That's all this.
There's
That's
the
all our
connection.
swag. And somebody's going to get the flag and the bird and the candles. So how do they get that? We pick a name.
Yes.
We pick a name. Let's see. For comments, you can either comment or email us at librarylovefest@HarperCollins.com. Did I say that slow enough? librarylovefest@HarperCollins.com, and you'll be entered for a
It
chance
should
to
just
win
flash.
this.
Yes.
Pow, bam, cardinal.
There you go.
Cardinal.
Candle, cardinal,
A candle.
flag.
And
Okay.
for only 3 installments of $79.99, you too can have this candle and bird.
All right. Back to our regularly scheduled program. Okay. Thank
right.
you very much. Okay. That was wonderful, Lainey.
Thanks.
I liked your
I hope I didn't
presentation.
talk too long, but it's a lot to go through.
No, that's great.
Serious buzz for that one. So
Yeah. That is a so cool jacket too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Say Your Word, Then Leave: The Assassination of Jamal Khashoggi and the Power of the Truth by Karen Attiah. In September of 2017, self-exiled journalist Jamal Khashoggi filed his first piece with the Washington Post and with his editor, Karen Attiah. And the article was about his decision to go into self-exile and speak out against Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. It went viral, and he went on to become a regular columnist for the Post. He also developed a terrific relationship with, great friendship with Karen Attiah. And a year later, he was dead. So it's about his final year at the Post, and it's about the disappearance, his kidnapping and murder, and brings into focus Saudi Arabia's hold over the United States powers in Washington and on Wall Street and in Silicon Valley, and of course the grip over the Trump administration. So over the course of their working relationship and their friendship, neither could have guessed, though there were certainly signs that this could happen, and as horrific as it was, I don't know that anybody was terrifically surprised about what happened because of his political stance. So this is firsthand account of what his life was like, what he was like as a person, their working relationship, and what happened behind the scenes. She's gone on to win several awards. She won the Polk Award for writing about his murder, and she was named as the National Association of Black Journalists for 2019. So, and the title itself is translation was on his Twitter profile in Arabic. She chose this as the title of the book because she said it just struck me as a fitting example of his work and his life, about how much he believed in the power of free speech, and even though he has left us, his words will never die. So she reveals a side of the story that readers have not yet heard, and as I say, details about him as a person and new revelations on the corrupt ties between bin Salman's regime and United States leaders. So this is an important book, and she's the perfect person to tell it. So that's Say Your Word, Then Leave by Karen Attiah.
Okay. We have a new novel from Charles Todd, A Divided Loyalty. Thank you, Lainey. So this is part of the Ian Rutledge series. Charles Todd, who is the mother-son writing duo, they're based on the East Coast. They're amazing library advocates. They do events. So please do let me know if any of you are interested in hosting them. But with this series, it continues to grow and profile. The previous Ian Rutledge novel, The Black Ascot, was a USA Today and Publishers Weekly bestseller. And I like this quote from Marilyn Stasio, who's the New York Times Book Review mystery reviewer. She says that the Ian Rutledge series is a singular series. The melancholy tone that distinguishes the Rutledge series is a reminder that war never ends for the families and friends of lost loved ones. It just retreats into the shadows. And I think that's what this series does so brilliantly. You know, it's a smart mystery series, but it also is looking at the lives caught in the current of, huge, whether it's war or social issues at the time. And with this latest novel, you have Ian Rutledge, who's always dealing with some of the bureaucracy involved, with his job. He is traveling to this small town. He's convinced the chief superintendent is after his career and trying to tarnish his success with previous cases. But there's a young woman with no identity found murdered by this statue in England. And no one knows who she is. She has no identity, no friends, no family. She's just kind of this faceless victim that no one seems to care about. And again, with this series, I think it's what happens is Ian Rutledge takes on this case and finds himself kind of deeper than he could have ever expected when he tries to get down to who this woman is and who her killer is. But again, I think just like the people on the ground level who are affected by all these historical events is always just written so beautifully and poignantly. And we're always excited about a Charles Todd novel. Again, they just continue to grow and grow, I think, in critical praise and commercial success. So everyone's a big deal. This one is coming February 4th. It's A Divided Loyalty by Charles Todd.
Okay, so next we have Citizen Reporters, thank you, by Stephanie Gorton. And the subtitle is S.S. McClure, Ida Tarbell, and the magazine that rewrote America. So I'm going to read a little something and see just a reveal. So, the President of the United States makes headlines around the world when he publicly attacked the press, denouncing reporters who threatened his reputation as muckrakers and forces of evil. The year is 1906. And the president is Theodore Roosevelt. And the publication that provoked this, McClure's Magazine. Seems a little familiar,
Wow.
doesn't it? And so that's exactly what this is. This is a nonfiction, great nonfiction, which I always love good nonfiction. It has a woman's story, it teaches you something new. And so Stephanie is a big writer, nonfiction writer. She writes for the NewYorker.com, Los Angeles Review of Books, and I could go on and on. And this one is so amazing. It just shows you everything in the Gilded Age that's going on with McClure's Magazine and Ida Tarbell. And I think personally, I learned about them in history class. Ida Tarbell was one line, muckraker, known for showing America what was really happening. Okay, next. There wasn't a lot of information about it, and I think it's so refreshing to see these women's stories and what they did. It was fearless. She went against gender stereotypes and revealed all these stories throughout the Gilded Age that no one really wanted to go to. So this book has both her story, she's a star reporter for McClure's Magazine, and then you have S.S. McClure himself, who is an Irish immigrant, and he really overcame all of this impoverished upbringing to create this magazine that really took down a lot of big people, including Standard Oil with the Rockefellers, and showed all of the Gilded Age, all the things that were going on. Even though it's both of these people, Ida really kind of takes center stage, and you get to know a lot of her story. There's not a lot written about her, especially if you're teaching young kids in history class. But it just shows the possibility of what the media can do if they really stick to their guns and show what's actually going on. I think we're all a little fatigued by what we're hearing in the news, and so this is a little uplifting in the end to show that they can really make a difference. And you're just going to juxtapose everything that's going on with what's going on now in the world. But really deeply researched, but really readable, and it's a great nonfiction.
It's a great jacket, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A great presentation.
Well, thank you.
I like
All
the
about,
twist.
I call it the hashtag Girl Power Books, because you always, S.S. McClure is really interesting too, but you know probably a lot more about him than you do Ida Tarbell. Mm-hmm. For my state history exams, muckraker, Ida Tarbell, I knew the names went together, but I don't know much about her. So yeah, so that's Citizen Reporters, and it comes out in February.
Okay. Who's next?
I think you are.
Am I? Oh, I am.
Yes.
My wife said you may want to marry me.
You have a brand spanking new jacket.
Oh.
It's just approved.
Ooh.
Oh, that's very sweet.
It's super cute.
That's
Wow.
very, very sweet. So, my wife said you may want to marry me by Jason Rosenthal. So Jason Rosenthal was married to Amy Krauss Rosenthal, author of 30 children's books between the years 2005, 2017. That included multiple bestsellers. HarperCollins published her children's book, Dear Girl, which, if you haven't read this, you must read this book. Have you read it?
No, but I've seen it, but I haven't read it.
Absolutely, I swear to God, I got to the last page and started crying.
Oh.
It's a picture book, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it's all about girl empowerment. You would love it. It's really, it's wonderful. Anyway, so in 2015, Amy was diagnosed with cancer, and she continued on and fought the fight until 2017, when she succumbed. Just prior to that, in March of 2017, she wrote a column, a modern love column in the New York Times, and it was called "You May Want to Marry My Husband." If you go to the Edelweiss page for My Wife Said You May Want to Marry Me, which is by her husband, Jason Rosenthal, you can open up the article. You can Google it too, but the article is there. And it is so good. I mean, when it came out, it went viral. It was read by millions of people, and it's absolutely heartbreaking, but it's sort of, I mean, I have it here. Naturally, I'm not reading it to you, but I did highlight a couple of lines here where she says, she talks about when she is diagnosed, and she says, no wonder the word cancer and cancel looks so familiar. This is when we entered what I came to think of as Plan B, the word B-E, existing only in the present. As for the future, allow me to introduce you to the gentleman of this article, Jason Brian Rosenthal. He is an easy man to fall in love with. I did it one day. And she goes on to talk about their life together and how wonderful he is. It's really, really touching. And she wraps up by saying, I'm wrapping this up on Valentine's Day, and the most genuine, non-vase-oriented gift I can hope for is that the right person reads this, finds Jason, and another love story begins. I'll leave this intentional space, this intentional empty space below as a way of giving you two the fresh start you deserve. I mean, I can't think of anything more generous and loving and caring about her husband and what's going to happen to him when she's gone. And in fact, she does pass away not soon after that that column was printed. The result now, you can find an article by Jason, who has this book is about his struggle to grieve and to move on, and he talks about their life together, his life before he met her, when he met her, and how he deals with life and their children after she is gone. So his late wife's orders to find happiness and move on, he struggles with that. He copes with his loss, and he's very candid, offering a lot of insights about death and dying and the pain of losing his wife of 26 years. It's an emotional journey, and it's her very public request for him to move on is something that he struggles with as well. But onward he goes. I won't say more than that. I do suggest you go to the Edelweiss page for this book, My Wife Said You May Want to Marry Me, because not only can you read this brilliant and beautiful, loving column that she wrote, but you can also read what he wrote, and then you can see a TED Talk by him, and it's really powerful. So that is coming out it goes on sale March 17th. And that is My Wife Said You May Want to Marry Me by Jason Rosenthal.
Excuse me. Okay. I have, thank you, Lainey, The Everlasting by Katie Simpson Smith. This is a really ambitious, kind of epic literary novel that spans 2,000 years and 4 different lives within those 2,000 years. And it's all set in Rome and is basically following these 4 individuals at very different times in Roman history and their own little acts of rebellion and acts of love. It's like a very hopeful, humanistic novel, but it follows an early Christian child martyr, a medieval monk on crypt duty in a church, a Medici princess of Moorish descent, and then a contemporary field biologist who finds himself involved in a love affair. So this is, again, a look at these lives, and each of these individuals are faced with, these consequences, whatever the historical circumstances are, their own personal circumstances, and it's all witnessed through this time-traveling Satan character who is suffering from a broken heart himself and is just looking for some sort of glimmer of hope. I know that sounds light or like a very interesting plot device, but it's actually very, again, deeply thought out and human. Just this brilliant, smart literary novel. I think the best comp that we're using is David Mitchell's Cloud Atlas. That kind of gives you a sense for the scope and ambition of this novel. It's just beautiful. I have this great Jonathan Lee quote, who wrote High Dive. It is so very rare to find a writer whose blistering ambition when it comes to bringing history alive on the page is matched by an equal ability to build and break sentences in beautiful ways. Katie Simpson Smith is that writer, and The Everlasting, a bold and ingenious novel spanning multiple time periods and characters with the ease of David Mitchell's Cloud Atlas, is full of rich and brilliant ideas about Rome, home, free will, sin, sensation, and civilization. It is an incredible achievement. It's really hard to wrap this novel up in one pitch, but I will say that I think encapsulates it. Memorable characters, just sweeping epic vision, and just beautiful prose on top of it. It's got it all. So this is The Everlasting by Katie Simpson Smith, and it's coming March 24th.
You couldn't wrap 2,000 years up
I
in
know,
a couple
it's
minutes?
it's
That's
hard.
weird.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
What's the matter with you?
I know, it's tough. I can't do it. That's why we read Katie Simpson Smith, because she manages in a little more time than that. But
Just a little bit. A few more pages.
a few more pages.
Okay, so calling all rom-com fans, we have Girl Gone Viral by Alicia Rye. Alicia, this is her second book in the Modern Love series. The Right Swipe was an August 2019 #1 top pick, Library Reads pick. We're excited about that. Everyone loves this series, and I mean they're all standalones, but it's exciting that they're all in this one series, and it all revolves around like modern dating and bringing technology into it. So Right Swipe is like swiping on dating apps, and this one is Girl Gone Viral, and it's about going viral, obviously on the intertubes. So in this story, we have Katrina King, and she is having just like an innocent conversation at a cafe with this cute guy, and she really likes being out of the spotlight. She's just on her own, and all of a sudden, a stranger has live tweeted this entire meet cute, as they call it, and they're like, oh, so they went to the bathroom at the same time, and she's like, none of that happened. None of it happened, but what it looked like, that's what they said. So they are all like they're breaking the internet with hashtag Cafe Bae and Cute Cafe Girl. And so everyone really wants them to get together, and she's like, I don't know that person. I don't want to be with that person. And especially for someone who was really kind of to themselves, this is a lot to be thrust into the spotlight. But then we have our romantic interest, who is Jazz Singh. He's a bodyguard friend, and he offers his like family house to take her away while she like escapes all of this craziness. And of course, they're gonna probably fall for each other. We'll see how it happens. But they're all alone. But Alicia lives in DC and LA, so she covers a lot of ground. So I know DC's fairly close to you guys, and it's really great because she writes inclusive romances, and I could list all of the awards she's won. It would take forever. Everyone really loves her, and I always like to point out inclusive romances. I know it might be a lot to say, but we're always talking about that in the community, and so I think it's good to point it out that we're making those strides. So, Girl Gone Viral, Alicia Rye, and that is in April.
Nice, Lainey.
Nice.
Very nice. Right, swipe. What did you just say? Something about tubes? What did you
Oh,
say?
I know.
Tube.
I had a teacher that said that.
Really?
Yeah,
what they
instead of
call it?
internet, it would be like into tubes.
You know what they call TV the tube?
Why?
The cathode ray tube, which was the precursor to the television. And you know who invented it? Philo T. Farnsworth. And he's from my hometown of Fort Wayne, Indiana. I know we're at the Virginia Library
More you
Association,
know.
and Virginia has a lot of amazing people too, but that was a long, winding story. Look up Philo T. Farnsworth. We can thank him for the tube.
Philo.
Why do you know
T.
this?
Farnsworth. Because I
know
have to have
history.
something to brag about Fort Wayne, Indiana. So
Did you
tube,
know?
the cathode ray tube.
I love that.
Yeah. So
Indiana Library Association, if you're listening, have us on.
Look us up on the intertubes.
anti-tubes.
I love that.
I think it's me.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Hugely important book, I think. Together by Vivek Murthy. So Vivek Murthy is the 19th Surgeon General of the United States. His list of credentials is a mile long, honestly, but he's just been, I think, a seminal figure in like public health discourse. In 2017, he focused his attention on chronic stress and isolation that he felt were prevalent problems that were under-researched and under-talked about, and he partnered with the Veterans Health Administration to really get this movement started. This is about the healing power of human connection in a sometimes lonely world. And this book is both kind of giving a broad overview of what Vivek thinks is, and I totally agree. Like public health crisis, loneliness, and this isn't just in the United States; it's everywhere. In China, 28% of older adults are lonely. In Germany, people aged 30 to 60 are at peak loneliness, and this is all tied again to illness, mental health, the things that we're seeing time and time again that we just haven't confronted, I think, in a succinct and approachable way. And that's what Vivek is doing here. He traveled the country talking with doctors, mental health professionals, talking about opioid addiction and how that's killing communities and how that all, again, ties into certain social factors, technology, mobility, commercialism, individualism, just people feeling like they lack connections with the world at large. And so he details that, but then he also gives very prescriptive approaches to how to, fight this battle and win. So it's a hopeful book, but I think it's, one that I don't think this has been done in such a broad, important, kind of all-encompassing way. So we're really excited about this, and I think if there's anyone who's qualified to lead this charge, it's Vivek Murthy. So this is coming April 28th. That's Together, the Healing Power of Human Connection in a Sometimes Lonely World. Can't miss it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Everybody just has to disconnect.
Yeah.
Disconnect in order to connect.
Yeah.
Ugh. I mean, I know it's more than that, and I'm certainly not making light of that, but I do think that is part of it.
It's huge. Yeah, I think it's, and I don't know.
It's like what they say about New York. It's like it's so densely populated, but you can still feel so lonely in it, just because you are very in yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff there, and it's fascinating. So
Important.
yeah,
Important.
very much.
Okay. I will talk about not talking. The Silent Treatment by Abby Greaves. This is a debut novel, which has a nice hefty announced print to it, 100,000, which will tell you the positioning of this book. This is a novel about a married couple, who have lived together for quite some time, and now, for reasons that are unclear at first, the husband, Frank, stops talking to his wife, Maggie, for the last 6 months of their married life. Not one sentence, not one word, nothing. And she has no idea why. Or does she? She has a few thoughts roaming around in her head as to why this might be happening. But there are no firm answers. So for 6 months, they live together. They sleep in the same bed. They go on with their daily lives as if everything is fine, except they're not talking to each other. When he comes home one day, he finds her, Maggie, his wife, at the kitchen table, passed out with an empty vial of sleeping pills next to her. And that turns everything upside down. And she is placed into a medically induced coma, and he tries to find his words to explain what's happening and what's gone on. Is it too late? Can he get her back? There are some really terrific reviews on this book already. Let's see. I have one from Uno Momento, por favor. Jilly McMillan says, in her tremendously moving debut, a novel that pulses with emotional tension, Abby Greaves masterfully unpicks a history of ordinary lives facing extraordinary challenges. I found it impossible to look away from the relationship at the heart of this novel. Susan Wiggs says it's a gorgeous heartbreaker of a novel, an intimate, unpretentious, precisely drawn, and surprisingly suspenseful look at a decades-long marriage, how it soars and plummets. Abby Greaves has a bright future, and I can't wait to see what it brings. That page is more of these wonderful reviews. Wow. She is a publishing sort of insider. She's worked for in the UK for a literary agency, and so she's immersed in this world. And you can be immersed in the world, but doesn't mean you can write a book. She can write a book. So there's plenty to discuss. It's a very discussable book, great for book clubs. And if you're a fan of The Notebook or Me Before You, that kind of thing. It touches on motherhood and mental illness, love and family. There's a lot going on here. It's quite juicy and quite the satisfying read. So, The Silent Treatment by Abby Greaves. That goes on sale April 7th.
So, this one is Almost Just Friends by Jill Shalvis. We love Jill. Libraries love Jill. This is going to be a library hardcover edition, which is just like a no-brainer. And we're really excited for Jill because she kind of made her foray into the trade paperback women's fiction world. She has a lot of mass market romances, which are still coming out. She's still doing those, and they rotate for each year, once a year. So in this one, it's got her usual themes of, it has to have a dog on the cover, which it does, but also her themes of like family and acceptance, and that's what she's really known for. And this one you can see it. We love her so much. So in this story, you have Piper Manning, and she's really tough, but she's kind of had to be. She raised her siblings from a really young age, and her grandparents have left her this house that she's going to have to fix up. It's a lake house, and she's just ready to kind of get out of there. Her kids, her siblings have flown the nest, and she's ready to get on with her life in a way where she's not always responsible for them. But then a massive storm hits, and of course you have this brooding stranger who comes in. But then her siblings show up at the door too, and they have some secrets, and they need her help. And now she's just thrown back into this life that she was trying to get away from. But as time comes out, and the secrets do come out, then she just really has to decide what she's in charge of, and she's got to be in charge of her own life, and has to let them kind of fly away. But yeah, like I said, love and acceptance comes through in this. It's always about family, and in the different ways family takes its forms. It's on Edelweiss, so please check it out. You can download an eGalley, and we're excited for the new Jill Shalvis, which comes out in January, so pretty soon. Almost Just Friends.
Beautiful.
Sweet. Okay.
Coming down to the wire.
Coming down to the wire. This is
3
my
left to
last
go,
book.
Virginia.
I did think you were talking to yourself.
Hey, Virginia, what?
Answering yourself might be the problem.
Talk about some books. Okay, I will.
I'm going to go to the Chris Library Association.
Yes, the Chris Library Association and the Laney Library Association. In our minds, these things exist.
All right, my last book is Hunter Killer by Brad Taylor. This is a Pike Logan novel, and this is the first book we have with Brad here with our William Morrow imprint, so we're really excited. He is just a big deal in the military thriller world, and he knows of which he writes. He is a 21-year veteran of the U.S. Army Infantry and Special Forces, and he pulls from that experience to write these really gripping, gritty, just fast-paced and smart thrillers starring Pike Logan and his task force. And with this latest novel, Pike Logan and his team are preparing for this counter-terrorist mission, and they basically find themselves ambushed. They're traveling to this terrifying area that I haven't really thought about personally, and that's another thing that Brad does really well is pull from the headlines and what's happening really on the ground. But Pike Logan and his team are traveling to this really dangerous area called the Triple Frontier, which is the tri-border region where Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay meet. And a lot of sketchy things happen here. It's like this lawless territory, and he and his team are taking this mission there. But before they even get there, there is an attempt to basically ambush Pike's team, and he loses contact with his team in this area, and so he and Jennifer Cahill, who appear in this previous novels, they have to team up and get to the bottom of what's happening with this team. But again, it's just like sweeping and epic, but again, you get that really gritty, informed look that someone like Brad can provide. So I have this great quote from Nelson DeMille, best-selling author. He says, "Brad Taylor knows his stuff. His new Pike Logan novel, Hunter Killer, has the gunmetal ring of authenticity. It makes you pause and think while you're being thoroughly and rapidly entertained. It's an excellent read, and I greatly enjoyed it." Again, just one of these, I think, foremost masters of the military thriller genre. So we're so excited to have him on our list now. This novel is coming January 7th. That's Hunter Killer by Brad Taylor, a Pike Logan novel.
Super excited to have him under our roof.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. He came to the office and we got to meet him, and he brings it, boy.
Mm-hmm.
We're lucky.
And his editor always purchases
Yeah.
really great, smart
Yeah.
thrillers, amongst other things. But yeah, you can really expect a lot from this novel. It delivers. So that's my last one.
Love. Oh, okay. My last book is Unknown Valor, A Story of Family, Courage, and Sacrifice from Pearl Harbor to Iwo Jima by Martha McCallum, who is the anchor at Fox, and her show is The Story with Martha McCallum. She's been there since 2004. She has 2.5 million followers, so she's going to be talking about this book on her show a lot. So you'll be hearing a lot about this. It comes out in January. And so February 19th, 2020 marks the 75th anniversary of the amphibious landing at Iwo Jima. Now, so back up on December 7th, when Pearl Harbor was attacked, the news came out and everybody went into panic mode. Martha's mother was a child at the time, and her thoughts immediately went to her teenage cousin, who, because it just spelled war, and figured that, he was going to have to go to war, and indeed he did. So you get this sort of family story. This is not just about this family member who goes off to war. It is the bigger picture of our presence there and what happened. But there are a lot of letters home from Martha's mother's cousin. So all of that was saved to this treasure trove of really interesting material detailing what was going on there. So it follows Harry, the cousin, from his life at home in Boston to the battle known as Iwo Jima. And so, as I say, you learn about the days leading up to the war, and then what happens as people are waiting for their sons to return. And of course, there's also the phone calls that are received with no return. So it's the story of the Pacific War's oppressive jungles, deadly beaches, where these teenagers fought and died. These were boys, it just left an indelible mark on those back at home, people waiting for them. So if you are, it's an important book, as I said, it's the 75th anniversary in 2020. Fans of books like Donald Stratton's All the Gallant Men, Flags of Our Fathers, Mitch Zukoff's book, Lost in Shangri-La, will really relate to this book. She's a terrific writer, and it's filled with black and white, 16 pages of black and white photos. And as I said, she will be talking about this on her show, so you will be hearing more and more about this book. It's about personal family recollections, her cousin's military records, as I said, his letters home, and it also is based on new research and documents. So this is not just a family story, it's a bigger story, and there's some groundbreaking information in here as well. So that is Unknown Valor by Martha McCallum, and that is going on sale February 18th, 2020.
All right, bringing us home.
Bring it home, Lee.
So it's a big announcement we're excited about.
Sorry.
This is What America Looks Like by Representative Ilhan Omar. You probably know Ilhan Omar. She's like so many first Somali American legislator in the United States, first woman of color to serve as representative from Minnesota, first of one of two Muslim women in Congress, broke so many barriers, and she has had such a interesting life, and really just in the news, sometimes not always great light. Some people are not fans of her, but I think maybe they're intimidated by what she's really getting done. But this is her memoir, and it's going to cover her early life in Somalia. 4 years she spent in Kenya. She was in a refugee camp with her family. She had a later experience in the U.S. She was 12, so she was granted asylum. She came here with her family, and actually to Arlington, Virginia. That's where she came first. But just her education, her personal life, activism, election to Congress. I think everyone's so interested in her, and they want to know more. She's always on talk shows. She's known for saying on Trevor Noah's show, "I am America's hope and the president's nightmare." She's so calming to listen to. I was listening to interviews and I was just like, what else do you have to say? But she's really representing part of the country and people in this country that maybe don't always have a voice. And she really just, what the American dream is, coming here and making her way up. There's a great announcement on Forbes.com with her editor and her agent and all of the people who are talking about what this book is going to be and what they want it to be. And you should really check it out because I think it gives a good overview of everything. But yeah, we're really excited about this one, and I love that photo of her too.
Love
She
that
just looks
photo.
so happy. Like I'm here.
Yeah, man, she's smashed a lot into she's young.
Yeah.
And she's done so much already. Important stuff.
There are a lot of people a lot of firsts and a lot of people turning things over. No matter if you like it or not, they're starting conversations and things we need to talk about.
Yeah.
So this is what America looks like, and it's on sale in May.
Beautiful, eh?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, be hearing a lot about that one.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. It's a wonderful note to end on too. I
Yeah.
think a note of hope and an uplifting message and strength, women power.
Girl
Yeah,
power.
Nice.
girl power, and Virginia
Virginia
Library,
power.
Virginia Library Association power.
Woo.
I don't know. Thank you so much for inviting us, and we hope that you have a wonderful conference. What else do you want to say? Anything?
Just
Virginia's
that.
for library lovers,
for
and we
library
love you.
All the love. Thanks so much for having us.
Bye.
Bye.